Good evening and welcome again to Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott, and tonight we're going to be taking a trip out into outer space. Our guest tonight is Kris McCall. I knew I was going to say that all the time before the show. So Kris McCall, who is the director of the Earth and Space Center. I'm having a real tough time, so we'll just keep rolling. The Earth and Space Center and Planetarium at Triton College, the Cernan Earth and Space Center. Right?
That's correct.
So after 3 or 4 tries, I can get anything right? So, Kris, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, let's start with a little bit about your background. And as the director of a planetarium, and before the show we talked about the fact that there are only, how many, 1,000 around the globe?
There are about 2,500 to 3,000 planetariums worldwide. That's everything from little tiny portable planetariums that seat 20 people to large theaters that seat as many as 700.
Like that other planetarium here in Chicago.
Yes, that other planetarium.
Right. So you're a director of one of these 2,500.
Yes.
That's a pretty exclusive spot. How did you manage to get there in the course of your life? How'd you start? What got you interested in the stars?
In 5th grade, at the age of 10, I wanted to be an astronaut, but then I realized I would never be tall enough to be an astronaut. At that time, you had to be a minimum of 5'7" and a maximum of 6 feet tall, and I'll never be 5'7". The reason for the size limitation was if you were 6 feet tall, your head would bump into the hatch, and if you were less than 5'7", you wouldn't be able to reach all the controls. So I realized I couldn't be an astronaut, and for other reasons I might not qualify, and I got into science fiction, and that just sort of fueled my interest in astronomy and space exploration.
And did you find out that science itself was more interesting than the science fiction?
Yes, actually. So a nice mixture. I've never really been a fantasy fiction reader, more science fiction. But as a activity of last resort while I was in high school, we went to the planetarium because there was nothing else to do. Actually, the Children's Museum. Went to my first planetarium show.
And this was in Florida?
This was in Jacksonville, Florida. And my life was never the same. It was the most amazing thing I had experienced. I went back 2 days later. I went back a week later. This is in January. I then went at least every month, if not more often. I then hear the planetarium director on Sunday night talk radio on a little transistor radio. Anyway, when I'm supposed to be asleep, and he says something to the effect of, "We've had some volunteers come in and present programs." So the next time I go to the planetarium, I leave my name and number. Nobody calls. I go the next month, leave my name and number. Nobody calls. I go the next month. So I finally had to get up the nerve to call myself to reach out to him, and finally he called me back, and so in June I actually started volunteering at the planetarium.
And you were still a teenager at this time?
And I was still a teenager at the time. And so I learned how to present programs. I also took a lot of tickets, picked up a lot of trash, that kind of stuff.
All the things volunteers do.
All the things that volunteers do. But I learned a lot and fell in love. And the following summer I was running programs on a regular basis. When I went to college, I majored in film and television before they had degrees in science communication, specifically with the goal of going back to work in the planetarium.
Now that's so interesting because normally one would think of the career path as being you would become an astronomer or an astrophysicist to do this, but in fact you went to a communications route. Why? Because a planetarium is about communication more than the science, or? So
if you're a planetarium director, most planetarium directors are not doing advanced scientific research. We serve as a bridge between the scientists and the general public. To try to increase understanding and appreciation of science, the universe, astronomy. And when I got ready to go to college, my mentor said, you spend more time talking and writing and producing audio and video than you do calculating the orbits of comets. And so when I went to university, the communications people thought I was a little weird, but that was okay. And those skills have served me well over these many years. And the other thing is even if I had gotten a degree in astronomy or astrophysics at that time, the field has advanced. Our knowledge of the universe has increased so dramatically that keeping up with discoveries is a daily activity today.
And you as the director have to do that as well, right? Because you have to be able
Yes.
to talk about the current state of the science.
So
So how do you stay plugged in and informed?
There are news groups, there's discussion in the planetarium community. Part of it is just trying to sort of keep your ear to the ground. The Japanese, for instance, I haven't heard anything, but the Japanese just landed little rovers on an asteroid, the first really successful event for that. And it really hasn't gotten much coverage in the news, but if somebody comes in and asks me about it, I should know something.
It's interesting. It hasn't been covered much in the news, probably because the U.S. didn't do it.
Well, that, and there's so much going on in the world today. And I'm really waiting for, you know, this just happened in the last week or two. And so I'm really waiting for new pictures and a little more in terms of what they've actually been able to accomplish so far.
Now, does the move to the commercialization of space travel or space flight, Elon Musk's company SpaceX, what's it, Blue Origin?
Blue Origin, which is
Jeff Bezos' company. Has that changed your job in any way? Does that affect the work of a planetarium, knowing that there are these commercial efforts to send people up into space?
It really hasn't changed the job. It certainly is very exciting. I skipped an important meeting to watch the launch of the Falcon Heavy rocket earlier this year. And I think it's exciting to see new players in the game, more opportunities. You know, there's been a lot of talk about commercial space and Virgin Galactic and other people taking people into space, or at least into suborbital flights. We still haven't really seen that happen. I know it's coming. You know, in a way, it will fulfill some science fiction predictions of the privatization and the commercialization of space. So it really hasn't changed the job, but it's that many more exciting opportunities. There's new innovation, young people who are excited about that. So.
Well, has it spurred more interest in space and space exploration?
A little bit. Again, we haven't been launched. The U.S., whether it's NASA or private companies, have not really been launching people. I think once we launch people again, that's going to be a real game changer. I know a number of people who have been excited about what SpaceX is doing, but we're waiting. But a lot of people are waiting for when there is a human crew that I think you'll see 1 million people plus go to the Cape to watch that launch.
A human crew going anywhere, like to the moon?
Going anywhere.
To the Mars?
Well, even just going to Earth orbit, launched on a U.S. rocket, whether that be a commercial rocket or a NASA rocket.
So is it because people are fascinated with the outer space? I mean, you talked about science fiction earlier, and I read my share of that as growing up. But I'm still a fan of all of Star Trek and Star Wars and all that crazy stuff. Does that drive what people think about space? And when you're delivering lectures at, or communicating in any way at the planetarium, does that enter into, does the science fiction and the science have a crossing point?
Actually, the very first planetarium show I saw was called Science Stranger Than Fiction. And so in some ways the science is more amazing, but you have a lot of people even today who are saying, where's my flying car? Why don't we have hotels in orbit yet? I want to go vacation on the moon. So advances in technology and exploration have not moved as quickly as we would like, but people are still very interested. And what I find is that astronomy and space exploration is an interest and a passion that a lot of people will carry from their youth, from high school, even from college, because astronomy is relevant to your daily life. The sun rises, the sun sets. You see the moon phase night to night to night. You know, we flew by Pluto in 2015, and so there's all this excitement. And so a lot of people don't lose that enthusiasm. Yes, they might go on to become butchers and bakers and candlestick makers, but they're still looking at the stars, and they want to know what they can go outside and see in the real sky, and how do we know these things. And so that's really encouraging, that the public interest and enthusiasm for astronomy and space exploration is still there. I don't know many people who took biology in high school who, as 40-year-olds, regularly dissect frogs or something like that.
Yes, I haven't done that since high school. You're safe in that assumption.
But if I was to tell you that there are 2 planets out in the sky tonight, and it's clear, when we're done with this, you might go out and look for Saturn and Mars.
In fact, I do follow the news about astronomy all the time because I do still find it interesting, and there aren't a whole lot of people who followed the LIGO, it's the gravity waves. What's
Yes.
Laser interferometry?
Yes.
Gravitational observatory?
Yes.
Right. So it's probably not a lot of people besides me who can pronounce that, let alone know what it is. But because of that childhood interest that has carried through over the years, so exactly as you're talking about, I got interested as a kid, read a lot of science fiction, and now I still follow all those developments in the news because it's fascinating. But speaking of fascinating, I want to segue for a minute because we talked about traveling up into the stars, and no one's going to do that right away, and even in the future, in the near future, if it becomes space tourism, it's going to be way too expensive for most people. So the alternative is the planetarium, right? So in a sense, you can take people out to the stars by coming and visiting the planetarium.
Absolutely.
And we have a quick montage of some of the images from the planetarium, right?
So a lot of people think that all we do in the planetarium is play connect the dots and look for constellations. And if you come to the planetarium once, I want you to go out and look at the real sky. If you don't come back anytime soon, I want you to stop between the car and the house and notice the changing phases of the moon or the position of the sun, or there's a bright object in the south. But with new technology, we not only talk about the stars, we can take you to the stars. So stars are formed, stars die, things blow up. We might visit all the planets in our solar system, travel through time, back to ancient Egypt, back to the time of the dinosaurs. We can take the audience on a trip to the edge of the universe and back again in 20 minutes, if that's all the time we have. And so the planetarium is a vehicle that can take us anywhere that questions lead.
Well, we have some video that we can
Yes.
show. So let's see if we can get that video up, and I'll ask you to narrate us through it as we see it.
So when you're watching this video, it's in a circular format. So when you see this, you need to imagine that you are sitting under the dome, under the bowl of the sky, and all this is happening completely around you. It's an immersive experience.
All right, well, let's see if we can get that video up
Okay.
here. And it will go by very quickly with lots of images.
So this is just a taste of some of the experiences that we have to offer in the planetarium. So
I noticed elephants. I'm sure we don't see those in outer space.
no, we don't, but we are the Earth and Space Center, and so all sciences are fair game. So we might dive into the ocean, dig underground, look at the weather, experience a rocket launch up close, personally, in your face.
So here we're seeing a number of different things that would be, and as you say, it's a circular image. So while looking at this, we're imagining ourselves sitting back in this immersive atmosphere with this happening all around us.
Yes.
Right? And so these are the different shows now, there must be a way that we could tell if I was going to go visit. I would want to know, okay, what show is showing next weekend, right?
Yes.
And there's a way we can do that, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. The intent of this sampler is just to give you a taste of some of the experiences we have to offer, because now it's not just about pointing out the stars, but anything that can be rendered on a computer in sufficient resolution. But there also now are video and camera rigs that will take 360. So this is VR for the masses, if
Virtual
you will.
reality,
Yes,
right?
virtual reality for the masses. And
So some of these images we're seeing here are computer generated, others
Yes.
are from actual film footage.
Yes.
And this, as we zoom through, so each of these would be part of a much longer, like we're seeing 2-3 second clips
yes,
of
part of a
something
much
that might be a
larger program.
20-minute show, right?
Programs such as Waiting Far Away, Stars of the Pharaohs. Right now we're offering a program called Forces of Nature, which is earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes get closer than you'd ever want to be. So the volcano explodes right in front of us.
And is that like the volcano? Is that actual footage or is that?
Yes,
computer
some of it
generated?
is actual footage.
Someone was courageous. to
Some of
capture
it
that.
is actual tornado footage, things like that. But the thing is that astronomy it's an umbrella science. Astronomy, somebody goes, well, we don't do astronomy in school. But the thing is that biology, chemistry, physics, engineering, meteorology, geology, oceanography, computers, all of that falls into the realm of astronomy. So astronomy is a gateway science to all these other.
Well, and as you said, the center is the Earth and Space Center.
Yes,
so
sir.
it's about Earth as well as space, right?
Yes, it is. We still know that people come and expect astronomy and space exploration. So no matter what program you come see, we're going to take a few moments and talk about what's up in the current night sky. We'll offer the opportunity for you to ask questions. If we have extra time and you want to know about black holes or you want to look at the sky from the southern hemisphere, we'll take the time to do that. So it's
Well, I want to take a moment here
Yeah.
because as we finished up that video, it's the Cernan Space Center,
Cernan Earth and Space Center,
right?
yes.
Earth and Space Center. Talk a little bit about how it came to be the Cernan Center as opposed to the McCall or the McDermott Center.
Yeah. So some people may not realize, but the furthest at this time that humans have gone is to the surface of the moon. And through the Apollo missions, only 12 people walked on the surface of the moon.
So in the history of humanity,
Yes.
so far there have been only 12
Who
humans.
have walked on the surface of the moon. You had several who have orbited the moon but did not land. Anyway, only 12 places in the States can claim a moonwalker as a homeboy. And Gene Cernan, Captain Eugene A. Cernan, was born in Chicago, raised in Berwyn and Bellwood. There actually is a Cernan Avenue. And so he walked on the moon in December of 1972. He was the last person to leave a footprint on the surface of the moon. In 1973, there was a movement among colleges and universities to build planetariums as an outreach to their local communities. And somebody put two and two together and said, let's ask Captain Cernan if we can name it after him. He said, yeah, okay. I don't think he really, there was a lot going on at the time. But over the years, over the intervening years, he came to appreciate and support the educational mission of the Space Center. So he made appearances at the college, he did book signings and spoke to youth and things like that. So the first planetarium opened in 1974, the current building opened in 1984. And so even though Captain Cernan passed away in January of 2017, it is our mission to honor his legacy while inspiring the next generation.
Well, and speaking of inspiring the next generation, I want to show, we've got another clip here that I'd like to show. Rocket Camp for kids.
So we do, Planetarium is really the highlight of what we have to offer. There's a very small exhibit area. We also coordinate free public star parties, which is where telescopes get set up outside, and anybody and everybody is welcome to come and observe for free. We do that at least once a month, oftentimes twice a month, also for special events. But something that we're really excited about is in the summer of 2017, we offered our first week-long rocket camp for middle school students. And during the course of this program, they learn about Newton's laws.
Here we go,
They
yes.
learn about
to-
Newton's laws. I'm just going to let this speak for itself.
Yes, you can see the kids launching their
So they
the
learn
rockets
about
now.
Newton's laws, they actually build rockets, they're going to learn some astronomy along the way, a little bit about the history of space exploration, because even for a lot of these students, they were not even aware, when the last space shuttle landed in 2011, and their enthusiasm, their excitement for it. In fact, we have a couple of high school volunteers who volunteered in 2017. They came back and volunteered in 2018. But it's a really fun week-long opportunity to bond and learn and build.
And how many children typically attend?
Full house is 20. We had 16 this past summer.
And do they have to apply? Is there some sort of
There's
application
not really an
process?
application. You sign up. We'll probably start registration in January. But if somebody wants to touch base with us now, they could certainly do that.
That's so cool. I just love that idea.
I've actually had a bunch of people ask me when we're going to offer adult rocket camp. But no, it really is a lot of fun. And like I said, to see, I was sort of, here are middle school kids running toward science education.
And it's fun, people think of science, oh, gee, I got to take a science class. This is real. They get to do actual real things, right? They can launch rockets. I can't think of any young boy, and I think now it's just equally true of girls, that doesn't get a thrill out of lighting that fuse and watching a rocket take off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like
so it's a way to bring them into science.
It's as much fun for us as it is for the students. And we're looking toward doing other things. The college has also partnered with the local Boy Scout councils, Pathways to Adventure, Twin Lakes District, to offer Merit Badge College, which is they can sign up through the Boy Scouts and they come to the college for a day, and you can sign up for different badges. And it might be a 3-hour workshop, it might be a 6-hour workshop, and you can do a lot of things that will help you to complete a badge in challenging areas such as automotive and architecture, photography, robotics, astronomy, space exploration. We're hoping this time to offer welding. We might be offering medicine or health careers here pretty soon.
And these are all through Triton College.
This is all through Triton College.
Not necessarily through the center, though.
Not necessarily through the center, but we've been sort of a spearhead for the college. So we've been working on coordinating the program with the Boy Scouts. But in 2017, we had 110 scouts. We're expecting to at least double that this year. But it was a lot of fun. I think it was as much fun for me as it was for the boys, and also just to make the point that the Boy Scouts, especially the districts in this area, have been welcoming and encouraging girl participation already for some time. So we had quite a number of girls last year, and I expect to see more this time.
So going back to the college, I'm assuming that the center must be a draw for the college generally, right?
So probably the biggest attendance for the planetarium has been visiting school groups. So that might be preschools, that might be high schools, not just from our immediate district, but from Gurnee and Chicago and Bensonville and all sorts of other places. And so we offer programs for school groups. This is just a portion of our menu of programs that we have to offer.
And for those who won't be able to see what's on there on TV, we can send them to the Triton College or the center's website, right?
Triton.edu/Cernan, C-E-R-N-A-N. The other thing is that a lot of the programs that are available for school groups do make it into our public show rotation. So if you're really interested in space aliens or from Earth to the universe, odds are that's going to turn up in the public show schedule as well. So our classes, our programs are aligned with next generation science standards. We really like to open up the floor to questions. I actually have a Lego robotics team who's going to come so that they can learn about the challenges of human spaceflight, physical and psychological. Go ahead.
Is there, does the planetarium at Triton also conduct basic scientific research as well, so there are research scientists there as well?
No, we don't actually have research scientists, although I'm hoping to maybe be able to get some grant-funded programs that would allow us to bring students in and hone educational strategies to provide like a full-day experience so that students would get planetarium time, activity time, exhibit time, stuff that they can do in the classroom. So that's something I'm hoping to do.
And then maybe visiting faculty or
yes, visiting guest speakers. We just had Dr. Rob Owen from Oberlin College to talk about black holes and their relationship to the research in gravitational waves, which you mentioned earlier. So we're also working on trying to bring in speakers, not just for school groups, but also for the general public. You can also get on our website the complete public schedule. There is a Google Calendar on our homepage, so you can see what's playing this week, but also what's playing in December. While I'm thinking about it, we also still do laser shows. So bright lights.
Going back to the 70s, right?
But they're actually still popular. A lot of young people have enjoyed them. Bright lights, loud music, very little educational value, and not just Pink Floyd, although Pink Floyd is still the
Still
most
a favorite.
popular, not just Led Zeppelin, but we've got Lady Gaga and Michael Jackson, and that we have a Halloween show, so that's a little bit silly, a little bit spooky. We have a holiday show with Mannheim Steamroller. You were asking about actually doing scientific research. One of my marching orders from the administration is to have the college faculty utilize the planetarium. And you would think that they would automatically do that, but not necessarily. But we've been working first, the low-hanging fruit, if you will, was the astronomy professors, and to really get them to use us as a lab, not just to come and watch DVDs, but to talk about the motion of the sun and things like that, or to run programs. But I'm really excited that we have more than doubled, almost tripled the number of Triton College students who come to the planetarium as part of their curriculum to study architecture and English as a second language and ancient civilizations and ophthalmology and the brain, because there are some beautiful programs that have been created.
Now, how would architecture figure into the planetarium? How do those connect?
Architecture figures in because of the path of the sun. You have high sun in the summer, low sun in the winter. It rises in the east, it sets in the west. That might affect how you build the eaves on your house, or is the house facing north, south, east, west? What kind of glass will you use?
For energy efficiency or passive
absolutely, energy efficiency. So, in fact, I did that. The students actually came, I think, in the first week or the second week of the semester to explore those issues. And like I said, we've also got things for health careers. There's a fabulous tour of the human eye in great anatomical detail of all of the connections, from the light passing through the cornea to the various nerve bundles in the back of the head. So,
and it's so fascinating, because if without our eyes, it would be very difficult to see this guy. So why not look at how we process light? The universe is about light. That's how we discovered what's out there. And even though there's much in the electromagnetic spectrum that we can now measure, but light was how we first saw it.
well, and the thing is that the college actually has a fairly extensive health careers program. So they train ophthalmology technicians. So when you go to the ophthalmologist and they do the machines and things like that, those people need to understand how the human eye functions. So ophthalmology, sonography, surgical prep, sterile processing, all those kinds of things. And so understanding the anatomy, we can present it in a different way. There's lots of different learning styles. Some people learn by watching, by doing, by hearing, by taking notes. And you can look at something on a screen, but if you can look at it in 3 dimensions in the planetarium.
Well, I've learned an enormous amount tonight, and believe it or not, we're out of time already.
Oh, rats.
So, yeah, there's so much more we could talk about, but you'll just have to come back at a future date, and we'll pick it up from there. And we can talk in the future about our zombie ducks that we didn't get to.
About the really cool gift shop and a total solar eclipse on April 8th, 2024.
Be there. Right.
Yep.
Chris, thank you so much for being here as my guest.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us again on Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. Find us every Saturday night at 8 on Comcast Channel 19 or on the web at publicperspective.tv. See you next time. Thanks.